Entergy provides much more than power. We support science and engineering at local schools to build a brighter path to better jobs and help prepare the next generation. Because together, we power life. Entergy.
Additional support provided by the Fred B. and Ruth B. Ziegler Foundation and the Ziegler Art Museum located in Jennings City Hall. The museum focuses on emerging Louisiana artists and is an historical and cultural center for Southwest Louisiana. And the Foundation for Excellence in Louisiana Public Broadcasting, with support from viewers like you.
Everything that I have done in the state has been bipartisan.
John Bell Edwards, Ralph Abraham, and Eddie Rispone, their final debate.
He's done so much for women.
A rally of defense as attack ads mount.
There's no reason why our students have to go through at least 13 hours of testing.
BESE candidates and the things they think need to be fixed. Hi, everyone. I'm Natasha Williams.
And I'm Andre Moreau. Much more on those top stories in a moment on this week's edition of SWI. But first, let's look at some other news making headlines across Louisiana.
President Donald Trump is in Lake Charles tonight holding a rally at James E. Sudduth Coliseum. The event is headlining what's been a furious final week of campaigning by Republicans to force a runoff against Democrat Governor John Bell Edwards. Trump tweeted, "Keep Democrat Governor Edwards under 50%, force a runoff, and have a great new Republican governor." The rally is part of the GOP strategy to boost both of their candidates, Eddie Rispone and Ralph Abraham, without endorsing either one. Recent published polls show Edwards close to the number he needs to win the election without a runoff. 50% plus one is the magic formula for an outright Edwards victory. The week of Republican heavyweights visiting the state began with Vice President Mike Pence in Kenner last weekend.
I'm here because I'm for them. You got two great choices. With strong Republican leadership at the helm in Louisiana.
Pence was careful not to name anyone as the party favorite, but urged the crowd at a half-full Pontchartrain Center to unite in the Republican cause and send a message to Washington that the state supports President Trump. Senator Bill Cassidy and Congressman Garrett Graves were on hand at the event. Monday in Lafayette at the Cajun Dome Convention Center, it was the president's son, Donald Jr. He was there to try and boost the Republican turnout at the polls Saturday. He focused on worries about the oil and gas industry, huge in this part of the state, telling the crowd they shouldn't be subjected to economic oppression. State leaders of the Democratic Party say this blitz by Republicans is happening because they are desperate. Also in the headlines, LSU picked up a federal grant worth about $775,000 to use streaming traffic cam video to study car crashes. LSU's Center for Analytics and Research in Transportation Safety will study drivers' habits seen on traffic cams to work to improve safety on the roads. Senator John Kennedy says the federal Treasury Department will expand its work to pay out nearly $26 billion in unclaimed savings bonds. Kennedy is pressing the federal agency to do more to get people the money he says that belongs to them. As state treasurer, Kennedy made a name for himself by boosting efforts to return unclaimed property to people. Nicholls State is becoming the 6th university in the state to release a branded beer. The university will launch Colonel's Retreat, a lager brewed by Bayou Teche Brewery, at their football game Saturday. The Houma Courier reports the first taste will happen at a tailgate for alumni on the campus in Thibodaux. That's alumni over 21.
The third and final debate among the top candidates for governor found the usual bickering and finger-pointing. The irony, it happened during a week that both Republican candidates appeared to be united at all the events aimed at keeping incumbent John Bell Edwards from winning Saturday's primary outright.
If both GOP candidates seem to be cozying up to each other in an effort to unseat John Bell Edwards, you couldn't tell it from the debate. Check out this exchange, a question from Ralph Abraham to Eddie Rispone about education and Common Core.
And I got an opponent here that keeps going around everywhere I go and says Eddie Rispone still supports Common Core. Every time I go somewhere, he still outright lie about it. And I've been saying this for months, and it goes back years. 4 years ago, when they took Common Core out of the system, he didn't even know what Common Core was 2 years ago.
Not true,
and now he's in. You tell me one thing.
You should have never let it in the first place.
I didn't let it in. But you tell me what you've done to stop it. Tell me one thing that you've done.
I would have given the parents,
tell me one thing you've done.
You
can't say it. You don't even know how many states brought it up.
Look, Eddie, just look at my voting
That's
record.
what you got.
No, that's
a politician trying to start something.
Eddie, don't lie about what you brought it.
It's not a lie.
Abraham pressed John Bell Edwards about recovery programs from the 2016 floods.
Why the donors of your super PAC got contracts and got paid by the relief fund when up to 2/3 of the victims still have not received full compensation from the 2016 flood.
First of all, the 2016 flood disaster housing recovery program, as acknowledged by the Trump administration Housing and Urban Development Agency, has been delivered faster than any other disaster recovery housing program in the history of the United States for a disaster of that scale.
It's been 4 years?
No, sir. We submitted our plan faster than any other state ever did. We received the line of credit. We started spending the money to fix houses, to replace houses, to rebuild them faster than ever. Now, those are the facts. Now, it would have been helpful had you shown up to work, because I made a dozen trips to Washington, D.C.
We gave you $1 billion. $1 billion, Governor. You know that.
And
Where is the money? Show me the money.
The money has been spent and is being spent to deliver this program faster than any other on its scale in the United States history.
4 years.
United States history. President Trump's HUD. This is the best program in the history of the country, gentlemen, and I am proud of it. You need to get your facts straight, because you're 100% wrong.
Well, I'll tell you,
The two Republicans pushed the conversation nationally, while the governor did not.
Governor, why did you support Hillary Clinton over President Trump when he was running in 2016?
Look, you're always focused on Washington, D.C. I'm focused on the state of Louisiana. And as you well know, that was not even a contested convention, so there was no vote for anyone. But the fact of the matter is, I am focused on Louisiana. Louisiana first. And everything that I have done in the state has been bipartisan. That's the way we have moved our state forward, gotten out of the ditch. I work well with Republicans, with Democrats, and with independents. Anybody who wants to show up and work in good faith with me, we leave nobody behind. And I don't ever speak to just one segment of the population. I speak to all of Louisiana every time that I speak, because I'm the governor for everybody in Louisiana, and it is essential that we put people over politics and that we put Louisiana above party.
Each candidate gave their closing statements, their last opportunity to speak directly to voters before they head to the polls.
We are last. We are 50th. We continue to be 50th. If LSU was last in the SEC when it came to jobs and opportunities, or when it was academics or sports, anything, we would fire the president, the provost, the everybody, even down to the poor water boy. But in Louisiana, we accept being last. We don't have to, folks. We have to do something different if we expect to have a different state. This is what we need, folks. We need someone that's a conservative, an outsider, someone that's a job creator, someone that's not beholden to special interests to move our state forward. We have to do something different, and it starts by electing a different kind of governor. And when I'm your governor, I will make sure that we're the best state in the South when it comes to jobs and opportunities for our children, so they'll have a future here and be proud to call Louisiana home.
When I decided to run for this governorship, I made the Louisiana people 2 promises. 1, I would never attack a fellow Republican, and 2, I would work harder than my other opponents. I've kept those promises, and that's the way I will govern this state. I will keep my word to you. Over the last 10 months, I've been from corner to corner of this state. I've heard your stories. I've prayed with you. And it reminds me every day of what makes Louisiana so great. It's the people.
Louisiana has a choice. You know, my opponents and the partisan forces in Washington, D.C. would love nothing more than to nationalize this race. I've got one opponent who ignores the job he has and the promises that he made to get it. I've got another opponent who was the biggest supporter of the failed policies of Bobby Jindal that ran our state deep in the ditch. For 8 years, we had a governor who cared more about what was happening in Washington, D.C. than he did in Washington, Louisiana. And it nearly bankrupted our state. But we're doing much better now because of the hard bipartisan work where we fixed our problems. The deficits are gone and we now have surpluses, and we're investing in education and expanding opportunity. We have the biggest economy in the history of our state right now. We have an unemployment rate that is the lowest in almost 12 years, and we have the lowest percentage of people without health insurance in our history. So we have a choice. We can either keep moving forward or we can go back to the ditch. Vote number 4 for 4 more years. Let's keep moving forward together.
Well, attack ads against Edwards, funded by Republican Super PAC, focus on the governor's handling of sexual misconduct allegations against a former deputy chief of staff, Johnny Anderson. The woman at the heart of the attack ads is the woman Anderson is accused of assaulting.
Paid for by Truth in Politics.
6 women reported Johnny Anderson for sexual harassment and assault. The governor hired him anyway.
That's Juanita Washington, the former state employee who says the governor betrayed her when she complained about being sexually harassed and assaulted by Anderson. She says she then lost her job. The first question of Wednesday's televised debate, why did Edwards hire Anderson in the first place, even though there were previous accusations of harassment?
Before I took office, I received recommendations from all over the state of Louisiana, from community leaders, faith-based leaders, individuals who were holding elective office, all of whom spoke very highly of Mr. Anderson as being a good public servant. We hired him. Obviously, when the complaint came forward and came to light, he was discharged within hours.
In the governor's defense, this TV spot emerged. Women praising Edwards about his record and his work to have protections against sexual harassment. At a news conference, more women defended the governor.
The cause of eradicating discrimination in this state and this country is not some soapbox somebody can jump on and jump off when it's convenient for them. It takes commitment, it's a long-term commitment, and I have been litigating these cases for nearly 30 years. The reason I decided to endorse Governor Edwards is because he clearly demonstrates that commitment. It's not some soapbox for him, but it is a way of life, and it's a manner by which he helps protect women and minorities and all of us in this state.
To the matter of Washington losing her job came this response from the Edwards administration.
Ms. Washington was given the opportunity to withdraw her resignation and to continue her employment with our office. She declined to do that.
Yet Washington and her lawyers, they have filed a lawsuit to have a number of public records released by the Edwards administration, records they say they've not gotten yet. Edwards staff says they are working as quickly as they can to fulfill the request of the many layers of documents.
The race for the District 15 Senate seat is one of several this election cycle that has gotten personal and a bit nasty.
Incumbent Regina Ashford Barrow faced off against her challenger, community activist Gary Chambers. This was at the Baton Rouge Press Club on Monday.
Will you accept responsibility for the condition of the community you've represented for the last 15 years?
When I took that oath of office, I accepted responsibility for the district and been accepting responsibility and been responding to the needs of the district as they come forth. Now, what he doesn't know is that I have been meeting with the Baton Rouge Housing Authority because they have, when the legislation was written, it was written to ensure that any business could come there and put up anything in that community and we not know what it would be and it not be an asset to the community. What tangible plan do you have in place since you serve as a commissioner on the Baton Rouge North Economic Development District?
So I'll tell you what I've done first. In 2015, 2016, there was no emergency room in North Baton Rouge. I challenge every member of the press to look up the dates and times of who held the meetings to bring an ER to North Baton Rouge. Because you were there, you reported on it. I challenge you to look at the town hall meetings and who started the conversations about economic development in North Baton Rouge. Because, Senator, I had voted for you repeatedly, and my community was in decay. Over and over, I voted for the same people, and I watched business after business leave my community, and so I got fed up.
The job has no salary or benefits, but decisions its members make can have long-standing effects. We sat down with several members running for a seat on BESE, the Board of Elementary and Secondary Education, to ask them why they're running and what they plan to do if elected. Sandy LeBlanc Holloway is asking voters in District 3 to give her 4 more years to help shape Louisiana's education blueprint. She says her plan is to continue to be the voice for children throughout the state.
Can in any way I assist parents to understand their options in education and understanding how important it is that every child has a quality education, and that means from early childhood all the way to high school.
Holloway says her record shows she has a solid education action plan and is working diligently to make it reality.
Can I engage and be fully immersed in parents' choice, parents' rights to have their child succeed in education? And people who know me, I love that service. I love to work within. I am just not talking it, I'm also walking it with these parents and also their children.
Children throughout the state who are lagging behind in almost every educational category, something Holloway says she hopes to help improve.
It's very important as a BESE member that I work hand in hand very closely with the legislature, because it stems a lot with our funding source, that our district schools have the funds they need to operate, not only to fund resources in the classroom, but that our employees, especially our educators, get paid at hopefully the national average.
Her competitor, Janice Perea, is a 4th grade teacher in Houma, Louisiana.
I started getting more involved in what was going on with our schools a few years ago when I started noticing things and things that just weren't right. And I was thinking, where can I make the biggest difference? Where can I do it? Because standing on the sidelines in the classroom isn't helping.
She says every day in her classroom she sees the failure of Louisiana's current practices and policies up close and personal.
The standards that have been put in place, they were changed. The grade level equivalencies that we had were changed to the Common Core standards, and there was a lot of backlash about that, about how they weren't developmentally appropriate for our younger kids and that they were too complicated, and then the curriculum that was chosen to go along with it was too complicated. So our state, they decided that they would do away with the Common Core, but what happened was they just changed a few verbs and just changed the name of it.
Perea is very clear on what she would do to turn the state's struggling schools around.
The first thing we need to do is get a state superintendent who's qualified for the position and who wants public schools to succeed on their own merit and not by dropping the standards to make it appear that our schools are succeeding.
And she says she would also work to immediately revamp the way Louisiana children are assessed.
We need to reduce the testing that our students are put under. An 8-year-old having to sit through 13 hours of tests in a week is too much. And the test itself, it really has there's no value to it. Teachers don't know what their students make on it other than a score. They don't get any feedback from it to see what they need to do to improve their teaching next year. They don't know what standards the students are missing.
I also went back to law school to study policy just around the issue of education. So what I see broken is that policies that are being implemented and laws that are being passed.
Shawan Bernard is running for a seat in District 2 against incumbent Kira Orange Jones and Dr. Ashanta Wyatt, and says topping her agenda is addressing the policies and practices that simply don't work in the state.
We have to make sure that the laws that are passed reflect good policy, that when it passes to school it becomes effective for children and for teachers. And being a former educator, just because you create a policy does not mean it's good law and it's good policy, and how does that at the end affect children?
She also plans to take a close look at reforming state testing.
I see things not happening. I think some new things have to be changed around testing, around teacher certification, around qualifications for teachers, and how people get into the education arena and how they're supported throughout the process.
Bernard, who lives in New Orleans, says she plans to have individual conversations with the leaders of each of the 6 parishes she would represent.
I would like to work with the leaders from each 6 parishes and begin to develop an educational plan for your particular parish, and to do a vertical mapping of where we are and what you look for at the end. Are you coming with jobs? What type of jobs are coming to your community? How does the training look? And what do we as BESE representatives and policymakers need to do to assure your student success in your particular district?
Bernard's opponent, Dr. Ashanta Wyatt, also of New Orleans, says she decided to run for BESE because she believes educators need a seat at the table when it comes to shaping and crafting policies they are asked to implement.
I've been doing this job for about 18 years, and I look at it from a couple of different lenses. First, as a parent. As a parent, I understand what I want my son's school to look like. As an educator, I understand what I want my children to get from school. And just as a community advocate, as a tax-paying citizen, I believe that it's up to all of us to ensure that what we want for our children is actually happening for all children.
Dr. Wyatt wants to be the voice that advocates for the best interest of all Louisiana children.
What's absolutely broken is the access to quality seating. We have a shortage of that. There just aren't enough seats for the number of children that we have. But the conundrum comes in because we have more money and less children than we did pre-Katrina, and yet our academic gains aren't showing us that we're moving in the best direction to provide quality seating for every child. So right now, the quality seat issue is the crisis that we're facing.
She says the needs from district to district can be very different.
We have to start servicing the needs of individual schools on an individual basis instead of saying, here is what each school gets. We can't work it that way because the data is showing us that it's not working. There are greater needs in certain areas of our community across the district in totality, and we need to make certain that we're approaching it from a what do you need basis instead of sitting at the state level and saying we're just going to give them this based on what the formula tells us.
Dr. Wyatt says to know what is needed where, you must put boots on the ground.
You have to first come and visit those neighborhoods, talk to the community leaders, talk to the students, talk to the school leaders. You'll find that what we need is not what you think we need, and what you're giving us is just isn't enough.
Now, we reached out to every candidate running for BESE, but did not get a response from Kira Orange-Jones or Veretta Tanner-Lee to schedule an interview. In District 5, which represents the northern part of the state, Dr. Stephen Chapman is facing off against veteran Moreau teacher and administrator Ashley Ellis. Here's why they are running.
It's public service. I've been involved with school boards, both private and public, for almost 20 years.
Dr. Stephen Chapman has spent the last 16 years as a member of the Rapides Parish School Board. He's been a full-time dentist for 40 years. He says he will bring a no-nonsense, common-sense approach to all the issues that have defined his public service on the Rapides Parish School Board. Dr. Chapman says he will study the issues and make intelligent, independent decisions that always put the children first.
I'm taking this opportunity to represent the 5th District, be the eyes, the ears, and the voice for the district as far as representation.
He says he will use his experience to help change the trajectory of education in Louisiana, starting with
possibly get more local control as to the local boards having more control over what they do, the money they spend, and the programs that they put forward.
He also doesn't believe one size fits all.
The 5th District is different. And they all have individual needs, just like a child does.
Veteran Moreau educator Ashley Ellis says her experience on the front lines makes her uniquely qualified to hold a seat on the Board of Elementary and Secondary Education.
Look, I've been a teacher and an educator for 17 years, elementary school, middle school, high school teacher, and now an administrator. And I'm running for BESE because I feel like our voices as educators haven't been heard. Now we're talking about the issues that we have concerns with in education, but we're not at the highest level.
She says it's important that all children start with a strong foundation, which will be one of her focuses if elected.
First, I want to work on early childhood education. I think we need to do more with 3-year-olds and up and talk about the funding for that. Another initiative that I'm really passionate about is recruiting and retaining teachers.
She says the bottom line, if students don't leave high school ready for the next phase of their lives, then they have not been adequately prepared, and she hopes to do her part to change that.
Workforce development. How are we preparing our students to go to college or to enter the workforce, and are they ready to do that when they leave us?
Again, tomorrow is Election Day. Don't forget to vote your vote, your voice.
Well, voters in the southeastern part of East Baton Rouge Parish go to the polls to consider whether to create a new city of St. George.
St. George supporters say it's all about better schools and better choices. Opponents say great cities don't splinter. The New York Times is even reporting on the issue.
Now, this is an area that would become the 5th largest city in the state with about 86,000 people. Only those living in the outlying area, though, will be voting on it.
That's the controversy.
That's the controversy.
Well, the 8th annual Louisiana Film Prize named its new winner this past weekend in Shreveport. Anniversary won the $50,000 first prize. James Harlan Palmer of Mansville wrote, directed, produced, and starred in that film.
And congratulations to him. That's a big, big honor.
It is.
That is our show for this week, everyone. Remember, you can watch anything LPB anytime, wherever you are, with our brand new app.
Download it for free from our app store. This upgraded version features news, public affairs, documentaries, how-tos, and many more programs. And please follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
For all of us at Louisiana Public Broadcasting, I'm Andre Moreau.
And I'm Natasha Williams. Thanks for watching.
Until next time, that's the state we're in.
Support comes from
Entergy provides much more than power. We support science and engineering at local schools to build a brighter path to better jobs and help prepare the next generation. Because together, we power life. Entergy.
Additional support provided by the Fred B. and Ruth B. Ziegler Foundation and the Ziegler Art Museum located in Jennings City Hall. The museum focuses on emerging Louisiana artists and is an historical and cultural center for Southwest Louisiana. And the Foundation for Excellence in Louisiana Public Broadcasting, with support from viewers like you.